know this world will pass, but we know the truth will last. This is the Stable and Steadfast podcast. Welcome back to the Stable and Steadfast podcast. If you've just happened to stumble upon us through the great ether and saturated space of Christian podcasts, and I'm one of your hosts, Caiden Whitcomb, and I have in studio with me another host.
Yep, Pastor Jordan here at Second Baptist Church. It's a privilege to get to an episode number 2.
Yeah.
People were doubting us. They said, you're not going to get that far.
Yeah, apparently people don't believe in this thing as, I guess that is what it is, but if you haven't listened to the first episode, we highly recommend it. We had a great guest with us last episode, Anthony Felice. Yeah, did you have thoughts on how that episode went, Jordan?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good conversation. So like Caiden said, go back, take a listen to it. We covered too many topics to even remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But they were all worked into Anthony's testimony and how he came to know the Lord, and really just, good conversation. So yeah, if you go to Second Baptist and you haven't gotten the chance to talk to Anthony a whole lot, good chance to get to know him even before you meet him in person. You know, just about his life and what he's gone through. But yeah, I thought it was good. How about you?
Well, I guess the first thing I want to say is I was very surprised by how, organic it felt. I was very nervous on trying to make it sound like a podcast, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, with most podcasts, I don't think people realize, it's literally just a long conversation, and if you're not good at conversation to begin with, it's probably not a good idea to start a podcast. But one thing I noticed with Anthony and what I know of him, just going to church, is he's very good conversationally. He definitely knows what to say and when to say it, and he's a very thoughtful man. Just about everything we talked about was way deeper than I thought it was gonna go, which was very good. So definitely, if you like deep theology, I definitely encourage you to come Second Baptist, meet with him. I'm sure you guys could go a whole day and talk about all sorts of different things you've never thought about before. But yeah, I'm glad there's still people out there that ponder things. I think it's kind of hard to ponder about things nowadays because there's just so much saturation of ideas and garbage out there.
You're hit with so much information and so much differing opinions, and it's a lot of people don't take time to study for themselves and come to their own opinions and their own, and that's really important, especially theologically. We all wrestle with certain things theologically. But how many times do we really dive in and really hit the depths of it to really know what we're wrestling with? But Anthony, he does that, which is really, as a pastor especially, it's really cool to see people in your congregation really digging the depths of Scripture for themselves. Cool. But yeah.
It's definitely kind of a rare thing, I feel like, as well, for people to meet people who have a lot of introspection. Is that the word?
Inward, yeah, I think that's
okay.
That's thinking inward, pondering within your own being.
Yeah, because okay, last episode I said omnipotent and it's omnipotent, so I think I'm just stumbling over my words. But
We all knew what you meant.
yeah, that's good. But yeah, it's really cool to meet people who have that like um, inner wisdom and inner thoughts and reflection. Because I think it's something we can definitely forget to do. Day to day, where you just kind of go through the motions of life for the day, and you just kind of get caught up in things that happen too quickly. And then once you slow down and have that time to think and reflect, um, it's definitely a huge blessing, because then it furthers your thought, to be honest, um, which is definitely a gift that Anthony has. So if and hopefully he listens to this, we just boosted your ego a little bit. Hopefully,
Stay humble.
yeah, stay humble. But yeah, um, so I think, unless there's something else you wanted to add about the last episode,
I think that's about it.
what'd you think of the intro music?
Oh, awesome! It's catchy.
You're gonna sing it for us right now. Yeah, me and Solomon we're in a studio right now, and I think last Sunday we're gonna come up here and pick some songs for this coming Sunday for worship, and we were like, hey, we should probably make that like a little jingle or something for the beginning of the podcast. So yeah, we made that in like 30 seconds. But
Yeah, it's good though. And you guys probably have heard it at the beginning of this podcast too, so that's catchy.
yeah,
It's catchy.
that was the biggest concern, is catchiness. Yeah, see, it's an earworm. It really is. Um, but yeah, so this episode, I think, is going to be I'm going to be on the hot seat,
Yes,
so to speak. Yes. Um.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of like what we did last week with Anthony. We're gonna have Caiden just kind of share his testimony and how he came to know the Lord, and then maybe we'll have some follow up questions throughout. But the floor is now yours.
All right. So you want me to start like at the very beginning of like my consciousness, like?
It's up to you. Any important things you want to include along the way.
Okay. All right. Um. Okay. Well, I really encourage you listeners, which I'm sure there's a lot of you out there. I definitely encourage you guys to listen to the last episode, because while we were talking about Anthony's testimony, mine kind of leaked in there a little bit too. Which I wasn't trying to steal the limelight, and I hope I didn't, but yeah, so to begin with my testimony, like I said last episode, I've grown up in this church my whole life, and so that's probably, I guess I'd be 0 years old when I started growing up here, but yeah, like I kind of realized I was put into Sunday school when I was really little, and I went to the nursery, and we learn the basic Bible stories and stuff, and that was always really cool, because they had that big like thick book of like cartoon Bible stories, and um I always enjoyed reading that because it was nice and short and to the point. But uh, we also had snack, and for the real ones out there, I put goldfish in water all the time. Um, Not everyone's gonna know what that even tastes like, but when I was a kid, that's what we did. And then so once I got out of nursery, then you go to kids worship, which at our church we dismiss the kids into kids worship after normal worship, so they can sing with their parents and stuff. It's really cool. And then I was taught by mainly Brian Lynn, um, which he was head of the kids worship for a long time, and back then there were a lot more kids here. And what ended up happening was, different divisions within the church and little schisms here and there, and suddenly everyone was gone from kids worship besides me and my siblings and some of the other guys that go here. They grew up here alongside me. But eventually I got to the age, and I continued in kids worship, learning more about the Bible and more stories. And just like any school, you kind of develop your education, so to speak, regarding the Bible. But so then I went to kids worship, or I went from kids worship to youth group when there were a lot of teens here. And I was kind of like the baby for a while, but it was a lot of fun, and we had a lot of good times. And then I remember there was a while where I was just kind of going to youth group and just goofing off, and I wasn't really taking it seriously, probably because I was one of those church kids where, you grow up in a certain area, and then you kind of think like I'm like the golden boy or whatever here, so I can kind of get away with whatever I want. So, yeah, I did a lot of goofing off, wasn't really paying attention, and eventually, I kept somewhere in between that time. I had previously been going to public school, also through my whole life, and I kept continually getting more bullied throughout my life, and it really affected me deeply. It got really bad actually in about 7th grade, or starting to have extremely depressing thoughts and like even considered harming myself a few times. Thankfully those never really came to fruition, but there were also times where I got picked on by, bigger guys, and that affected my view of what relationships were supposed to be like among men, and I struggled with a lot of I guess negative self-thoughts, and that led me down to all sorts of strange thoughts and feelings. And yeah, I remember coming home a lot crying and just saying that I was sick of it. So that really bothered me. And then eventually my parents, they ended up finding this private Christian school in Seneca Falls, which, if you're not from around here, there's a little town of Port Byron, and they have a really big high school, and then probably 20 minutes from it is Seneca Falls, which is in the Finger Lakes region. But anyways, I ended up going there. I got taken out of Port Byron and got put in FLCS, which is Finger Lakes Christian School, at 8th grade. And the vast change from the education, the people, and the teachers, especially the teachers and the leaders there, it was like nothing I'd really ever experienced before. Because now I was surrounded by people my age who also were, believers and Christians. And within my first year, I had more friends than real friends than I ever had going to Port Byron all my life. And that was really cool. And, one thing which I really liked about FLCS that some other people in my grade really found boring was chapel. At the end of the day, all the students would go at 1 o'clock, and we would just listen to the principal / pastor, and he'd give us a mini sermon to all the students, and that really helped develop my faith. Because up until that time, I was just kind of going through the motions of what Christians do. I was just going to church, going to youth group, reading, praying, and I don't even know if I really read my Bible that much, because it was the thing to do in a Christian family. And luckily, because of chapel and the men's Bible studies they had at lunchtime, which were optional, my faith started to become more personal. And I think that's when I committed my life to the Lord again. The first time I had done it because this girl I really liked in kids worship, she gave her life to God at I don't even know, maybe 8 years old. And so I gave my life to God because I thought, maybe she'll like me more or something. It was stupid, but yeah, so eventually I got to the point at FLCS where I wanted to make my faith personal. And so I dedicated my life to Christ again. And I think I did it a few times during my education at Fort Byron as well, which was the public school I went to. But I still had a lot of growing to do. And so while I was at FLCS, I continued going to Bible study and chapel and learning more, and finally started reading my Bible on my own, and I realized how much knowledge there really is in there and how much wisdom can be found. And I actually fell in love with the New Testament and Jesus. I was just very blown away by everything he was teaching, everything he was on the Sermon on the Mount. It's easily the greatest sermon or speech or whatever you want to call it of all time, because it lays out exactly how we're supposed to act. And still my faith, I don't think I felt like I was on top of the world for a long time. Because then, at that point, I was in a relationship with a girl who I thought was going to be, the one I married, but that didn't turn out the way I thought it would. And that really left me questioning God and questioning my own faith. And I knew God was still there and going to get me through it after the breakup, but I was still just so confused. And just going to college and getting surrounded by that secular worldview, I got wrapped up in a lot of things that made me angry, and like angst. Everyone talks about like teenage angst, which I think that it's a very real thing because I remember like there were a few points where I have a really great relationship with my parents. It's very open. We could talk about really whatever, and uh, I kind of like started talking back to them, and um, it never really got to the point where we were like exchanging verbal blows or anything, but I still a little rebellious with what I was listening to, and I was kind of a very loose Christian for a while, but um and that was all after my breakup. But then like recently and up to now even I've really been reevaluating my own personal faith, and again like finding that first love in Christ, and realizing how much he loves me, which I honestly don't think I even know how much he loves me because it's so vast, you know what I mean? Um but yeah, and another thing I want to say for like people my age, if you're listening to this, I don't know what you're doing, but um I hope you're listening to this. Like there's a lot of things that the world tells us to do and act and be a certain way just because there's a certain image of and stereotype of young adults and teenagers within the world that were just like going around doing drugs and causing mischief and just being bad people just because we can be bad people because we have all this freedom now. But I think what I want to say is we need to have standards as young adults, and we need to be able to realize that. And we do have freedom now, but with great power comes great responsibility. Uh, said Uncle Ben. But um, yeah, so that's really my testimony, and I realize the importance of going to church and actually reading my Bible, and that's something that has to become personal to all of us at a certain point. Like, what are we going to do with Christianity and Christ and God, and are we going to live as He would have us live? That's all I have to say about my testimony.
Very good. So what would you say there's somebody listening who maybe was in like maybe right now they're in a place like you kind of were, where like God just doesn't, like Jesus doesn't seem personal right now to them. They know they're saved, right? They know what's they might even know most of the right answers, you know what I mean? And like but they're just maybe in a dry season, or they're just like reading the word and like it's not coming alive like it used to. I guess what would be your encouragement to somebody like that?
Well, the first thing I would say is like, I guess don't if they already know this. Obviously, there's not. It's like in any relationship where you're not always going to be super passionate and have those like I'm on fire moments. Because there are moments where it's like I'm just really not feeling anything right now, but you still love and hold on to that person. And I think the same thing applies to Christ and our relationship with Him. But I think if you're like in that dry season or moment or time, and you're just kind of going through those motions with Jesus, and um, just kind of being. The biggest thing I could say is to find gratitude in what Christ has already done, because gratitude, both in the secular world and Christianity, I think it's a very underrated thing, because it's like gratitude is just, saying thank you to someone, like, I don't know, doing a chore for you or whatever. But true gratitude is realizing, wow, you didn't have to do that for me, but you still did it, and you've always done it. And I think once you realize that with Christ, that he's always loved you, he's always going to love you, and your relationship with him is a blessing in itself, and all the times that he's blessed you and gotten you through all those hardships, then that's where you find gratitude, and your faith becomes like lightened up again, like sparked. I don't know. What do you think of that?
Yeah, oh, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we all go through seasons of, either like sometimes it's in the quiet, it's like just in the stillness, and you're just kind of like, what am I like? Maybe something's not going right in your life or whatever it might be, and you're just kind of, yeah, in the stillness, in the quiet, and you're just like wake up, Jordan, like what's going on? And like you were saying, yeah, I mean, gratitude does go a long way. Like, just I'm thankful.
Yeah.
Like you wake up every day knowing you're thankful for what God has already done and what He's continuing to do in you, and what He's faithful to complete in you as well. Like, that changes the way you live. And so, yeah, good stuff. One more thing I wanted to touch on. Maybe one more thing. Maybe more. Who knows?
That's okay. We got time.
Within your testimony, obviously a difficult part of your life with like the bullying and stuff like that. But looking back now, I guess obviously not going to look back and be like, that was so cool. Like, but looking back on it, how do you think the Lord even used something that isn't good, like that is evil, in your life? And you kind of shared about it, but
I don't really, I guess, like, if you're talking about like between the bullying and like just the depression and kind of like the self doubt and stuff like that, realizing that there was like this gap, and then realizing that like there was this large void and space within my heart. And I think once you realize that God fills that and then overflows through that, like, it becomes the only thing that matters. Like, it just takes out the depression and the negative self-talk, and because obviously you're going to deal with that stuff, but I think when you realize you're at the bottom, like, think about how far you can go from there. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense?
yeah.
Okay. Which I think we kind of live in a world that says, okay, one thing I hear misused a lot is the idea that it's okay to not be okay. And I think that's true. But I also think you don't always want to be not okay. You know what I mean? You should be searching for Christ in those moments where you don't feel okay so you can feel better. Um, like a sick person is going to realize, hey, I'm sick, but I also want to get better. Um, and if you're just, I think one thing that is really popular for some reason, like with young adults, like you could see it in music too, is depression. Like, why is depression like a cool and popular thing? Like, I think depression is natural. Um, like when I went through my breakup, like I was very depressed, but I also I knew that I wasn't going to be depressed for the rest of my life. And like sometimes I still think about it. Um, but I don't have the same, thoughts that I had when I was going through that moment. So it's not like it is okay to not be okay, but also you need to realize like I gotta kind of, find a better solution.
Yeah, you don't want not okay to be the normal, right? You don't want like you said, like a sick person just staying sick and not trying to get better. It doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And like I know, like there's varying degrees of like depression, anxiety, and like even just the struggles and battles that people face. They're often like sometimes they're not really even comparable. Like depression can mean one thing for somebody and another thing for somebody else. And so like yeah, obviously you want to be like sensitive with those people, and like you want to be able, but you want to point people to light ultimately.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like and our light is Christ, and like His Word is a lamp unto our feet, a light unto our path.
Yeah, there you go.
So
some verse.
There's some scripture for today.
little Bible plug.
But all right, well, let's move on to speaking generally about young people in our world. Whether it be teenagers to around your young adult kind of age. What do you think is the biggest challenge, or maybe two, or however many come to mind, but the biggest challenge that they're facing, or maybe something they don't live out or they're not aware of, or whatever direction you want to take this.
Well, the first thing that came to mind was relationships. Like a lot of people my age, like I don't think people take relationships as seriously as they should be taken, because like a lot of guys and girls my age will just date someone for the sake of dating. And I think that's a horrible idea. Like, because when I'm looking for a relationship, I don't just want it to be while I'm young and I have time to be with anybody I want before I settle down. And like I just want, there should be a reason for us to date. Like, and it said like when you're looking at it from a biblical point of view, dating in the Bible, first of all, isn't really even mentioned, I don't think. Like, is it just like courting or something they did, or
even that was like not a popular concept.
yeah.
Basically, you like a woman, you're gonna marry that woman.
Yeah. Yeah, I think dating as young adults the end goal should be to marry. And if you can't see yourself like living with someone the rest of your life, you shouldn't get into that commitment. That is that's also to say, like, you don't want to be overly scrutinizing over someone that you may be interested in. Like, if they love the Lord, and if you think they're attractive, and you could see yourself spending the rest of your life with them, then what more is there, like, to ask for? I think when people are, like, too picky, I should say, and they're, like, just hung up on, like, well, they don't eat fries with ketchup or something stupid like that. Like, I think that's a little much. But another thing I think for young adults is, like, the idea of education. Because once you get out of high school, you're automatically told that you should go to college because it's good for you. And I do think that college can be a good thing, depending on what your degree is, because there's a lot of good education that you could get from college. But I also think just like a piece of paper that says you were, I don't know, say your major was studying hamsters or something. Like, you're just getting that piece of paper for the sake of having a piece of paper to get a job, which that's just a huge waste of time to me. Like, the other problem is, like, when you're in high school, you're not really figuring out what interests you in the long run, which was something I was struggling with, trying to get into college, because I kind of picked up what I like to do while I was in college, which is a communications major, if anyone cares. Um, but so it could kind of be hard to just go to college with a vague idea of, what you're interested in. I think maybe if we started younger, like teaching or allowing young people to kind of see what they like to do, then I think college would be easier, and you wouldn't feel like you're drowning, you know what I mean, in, like, confusion.
Yeah, like more of an emphasis throughout grade school.
Exactly.
Like, you are gonna have obviously well-rounded is okay, but yeah, there is a point where you need to start focusing your attention towards what you like and what you're good at. And yeah, like it's kind of the same for me growing up. I was like, I don't know, like everyone's either going to college or whatever, so that's just what you did. And then you go to college, right? And then you have to take a lot of classes that don't pertain to what you're like learning in the future too. So yeah, I do think there's a place to have just more of a direction in high school about, educating kids about the workforce and different careers and things like that.
Yeah, I think probably the last thing I want to, like, get to is that young adults have to, like, eventually just, like, settle. You know what I mean? Because, like, for me, I want to be an interesting person, like, to talk to and be with. And I don't, like, and I like to create things, which I think that's, like, from our creator. He creates creators. But, so I think, like, the idea of young adults just having to be mediocre, like, why would you want to be mediocre in the career you're going to be doing for the rest of your life? Like, I would want to try and excel as hard as I could and know that at the end of the day, I did the best I could and I gave everything I had to offer because it was there to do it. Of course, I think just doing something like as hard as you can without a real motive, that might be kind of pointless. But um, I think, at least for me, my motive is to try and please Christ with what I'm doing. So, like, I like to write, and when I write, I'm trying to set this goal for something that God would enjoy. You know what I mean? Which is obviously going, if God's going to enjoy it, the master of the universe and the creator of everything, then it's a pretty high bar to set. But, at least I could say I strove for that, I guess. So, my advice, don't just settle and be mediocre.
Nice. Yeah, and ultimately, like everything we do, whether you grow up, you love your job, or eventually you don't really like your job, right? There is that aspect of being faithful in the things the Lord has given you, and providing for your family, and all these other things that come along, and but at the end of the day, some of the details can kind of get fuzzy or lost, if we're not, like you said, putting Christ first and living for Him. Yeah, so you want to hit some rapid fire?
Yeah, sure.
Rapid fire questions with Caiden Whitcomb.
All right. I'm nervous.
Here we go. Early bird or night owl?
Oh. Okay, my dad's a huge early bird because he'll get up. It's like wired into him to get up at like 6 in the morning because he gets up at 4 in the morning to go to work. But personally, I really like staying up late. Like, I think I go to bed every night at like 11, which probably isn't a good habit, but it is what it is.
Favorite person in the Bible other than Jesus?
I really like, just one person.
Just one.
Oh man.
If you had two, I guess you can say two. Rebelling against the question.
I guess there's the rebellion. I really like. I want to pick someone obscure.
Not one of the popular choices.
Yeah, cause like David, he's really cool. Job, he's cool. Paul, probably, who I've really enjoyed reading is John, because like he's looking at it from a different perspective from everyone else, because he was younger. He was the youngest, right? Wasn't he, John? He was the youngest apostle.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Now I'm stepping on thin ice. He was really interesting. And I think I relate more to what he writes, at least right now, because he's younger and I think he was the one that Jesus called beloved or something like that.
Yeah, that's who, as he writes, he refers to himself as the disciple whom Jesus loved. He never mentions his own name in his gospel.
Yeah, so that was cool. I really like him. Everything he writes has just been really cool to read. So
as like a writer too, like he writes in a more it's not as event by event. It's more more in a story.
Yeah,
like easy to read.
Mm-hmm.
Keeps your mind. Not that the other ones don't. No. All right. Favorite worship song or hymn? Anthony got that question too.
Yeah.
He said one that we got to have him on again just to sing it for us.
Yeah, that'll be special.
Battle Hymn of the Republic.
I I was very surprised by that. That's why I was like, what? Like, it wasn't that I was like disgusted. I was just surprised. Um, I think my favorite worship was it. You said worship song?
Worship song or hymn, church song, basically.
Hmm. Um, I really like Is He Worthy?
It's a good one.
Um, just because it's like when you listen to it, uh, you have that like response from like the choir or whatever it was in the background, and he goes through like little bits of like revelation, and the part where he's like, uh, is anyone worthy to break the seal and open the scroll? That's just like every time that's like, wow.
Yeah, there's some deeper theology in there too, which like a lot of like newer worship songs aren't as deep.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool that yeah, and the response like he is. This is like good like call and respond.
Yeah.
Psalms or Proverbs?
Okay, I'm in Proverbs right now. I just finished up Psalms like last week. Um, this is my criticism of Psalms, which might be a like I know, yeah, it's a hot take, but some of the Psalms sound repetitive to me. Like if I looked at, there was one the other day I was looking at. It's like, well, the whole ending of Psalms, um, it's kind of all saying the same thing, but there's a specific one, the title that is "Sing to the Lord a New Song," and that's mentioned a few times in Psalms. Um, which I noticed, even if it's just like a verse, um, which is a good reminder, and I do enjoy it. But I think right now I really like Proverbs because I'm realizing like it's written to a young man, like from a father to his son, and like the necessity of wisdom. Like I think a lot of times people think that because you're old, you're wise.
Right.
I work at a pretty big retail outlet. I've met a lot of foolish old people. Um, and they've given me some really bad advice, but I've also gotten great advice from older people. But I think like when young people realize the necessity of wisdom and what it has to offer, like I feel like that's when you get like really big changes and stuff like that you wouldn't have thought of. But yeah,
Such a practical book.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Let's see. We'll do a few more. Mountains or beach?
Probably the beach. The mountains, they're beautiful to look at, but if there's no like water to swim in, I don't want it.
No.
So I want the beach, I want the sun, I just want to relax. That's like probably the St. Lawrence River. For those people who don't know anything about New York, it's probably one of the best freshwater spots in my opinion, because like I don't have to worry about sharks. But yeah, I like the beach.
No sharks.
No sharks.
One food you could eat every day.
Chicken wings.
Ooh. Yeah, I've refused chicken wings every time since my gallbladder got taken out.
Oh,
because the chicken wing is like what started
really?
like, my worst like gallbladder attack that I had. So I was like, I'm just not gonna eat another chicken wing. I could eat a chicken wing, but
So is that like something you're grieved about? Like,
No, I mean I was never the biggest. I would rather eat pizza over like if we got pizza and wings.
Okay.
Like you guys can have the wings. I'll eat all the pizza.
Yeah. Okay.
But no, I'm not against chicken wings. And being from Buffalo, like I should really love chicken wings.
Yeah, that's like your guys'
But they're kind of
thing.
overhyped. I think. Like, for all the effort to eat a chicken wing, you don't. I mean, you're not eating a whole lot of meat. You know?
I guess that's true, but
Give me
like,
a steak.
okay, this man's got a refined palate.
I didn't know that was an option.
I mean,
What flavor chicken wing? It's a good medium wing.
I really like the hot honey garlic ones. Um, thing about like a chicken wing is like, at least in my family, we don't have them often enough to be sick of them. And the places we get them from, like I really love Curly's in Auburn. So if you're ever in Auburn, New York, you should check out Curly's. Um, and they have really good wings. Thing is, like, I think if you just buy a box of those like frozen wings that you just throw in the oven,
Oh yeah.
I don't want that. They just like fall right off and are like plastic. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, the place definitely matters where you get them from.
Absolutely.
We'll end with this one a little bit deeper. Biggest misconception about Christianity.
Um, I want to say that Christianity and Christians are very judgmental people. Like, I think a lot of times people will refuse to go to a church with whatever sin issue they're dealing with because they think that as soon as they walk through the doors, Christians are going to like pounce on them. But it's like the Bible is, I would say that believing in Jesus, okay, I think it's a very inclusive belief because it's got all sorts of broken people. But the thing is, I think a lot of people don't want to come to Christianity because they know that they'll have to give their sin up or at least actually fight it. Um, like I've known quite a few people that have been like, oh, when I go to a church, you know, the holy water is gonna boil over, which we don't even have holy water, so it's not gonna boil.
The roof is gonna cave in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's like, they're not understanding that just like going to a church and converting to Christianity, yeah, it means your lifestyle is going to be different from who you were previously, and hopefully you'll become a different person. Um, because now you have Christ as your guide and as your God. But yeah, I think when people think of the church, for some reason they think we're gonna like go out there and round sinners up or something and like smack them with a Bible, which
Right.
it's just kind of dumb.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and I'm sure like there are people who haven't had good experiences with church or with a Christian, and like I would hope people would know that should be like the minority.
Yeah,
Like most Christians should be the most loving towards you, and the reason they want you to like leave the sin that you're engaged with is because they want you to be better. Like they want a better life for you. They want you to be surrendered to Jesus because that's the best life you can live. Um, but there's like a lot of people, just a lot of mental hurdles to even get to that place or that point. Um, but yeah, I'd say that's a pretty big misconception.
Yeah.
And we just pray that like it wouldn't be a conception, if that's the right way to use that.
I think that's right. Sounds right.
And that wouldn't be a common conception.
There you go.
People,
there you go.
Yeah, a little play on words there.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Like Dr. Seuss over here.
The places I would go.
Yeah, the places.
One
That's
fish,
right.
two fish, right?
Yeah, hop on pop. So you want me to pray us out? We can finish it up, or is there something else you want to talk about?
No, I think we've hit everything on the agenda. So
Sweet.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, dear Lord, I thank you for the opportunity to do this, Father. And thank you, Jesus, for the salvation you bless us with through death and resurrection from the cross. And I just pray for people my age all across the country and the world that you change our hearts. And I pray that we turn to you, Lord. And I just pray for anyone who's listening to this podcast that with whatever they're going through, Father, I just pray you work through it and you remind them of your presence, Lord. And I, again, thank you for this opportunity. And I just pray that you do with this podcast what you want to do with it, and it glorifies and honors you every episode. And I just pray that it continues to grow and reach more people. Pray this all in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Do you want to do an outro?
All right. This has been the Stable and Steadfast podcast of Second Baptist Church with Caiden and Jordan. God bless.
God bless.